Boker Tov, good morning. We've been working our way in these meditations through the morning service. We are about to begin a new section, the Tefillah, the prayer, or the Amidah, or the Shemona Esrei. We're going to pick up and start there tomorrow. But today, after an extraordinarily difficult weekend for our nation, I'd like to begin briefly with a reflection on this week's Torah portion and the wisdom that portion Naso offers us in a season of deepening national crisis. It feels sometimes, at least to me, and I think I'm not alone here, it feels like our country is unraveling before our eyes. Its faults and failings, including first and foremost its original sin of racism, all laid bare and magnified by national leadership that only fans the flames and threatens to plunge us into the abyss. So what do we do in this time of racism run rampant, of rioting, of pandemic, of economic collapse? Where do we find hope and strength and calling? The opening words of portion Naso offer insight. The portion begins, Naso et Rosh, lift up the heads. Lift up the heads of the various tribes of the Israelite people. Naso et Rosh, to lift the head, is essentially an idiom for taking a census. It's a way we count people. But I like to think of it on a literal level too. And in that sense, lifting the heads defines the sacred calling of leaders in troubled times. We are asked, each of us, to lead by raising up the heads of those around us and our own too. When we are downcast, when we are sinking under the weight of anxiety, of pandemic, of economic struggle, and of systemic racism, that is when we need to raise up heads, to raise up our own and to raise up those of our friends and neighbors, especially the most vulnerable among us. Naso et Rosh, raise up the heads of the people, raise up the heads of the nation, raise up the heads by toiling for justice, for truth, and for peace. Naso et Rosh, raise up the heads by seeing that everyone counts in a nation where too often too many have been literally and metaphorically uncounted, uncared for. Naso et Rosh, raise up the heads by insisting that everyone is created in the image of the divine. Much later in this portion, which is the longest in the entire Torah, we get an echo of the possibility and of the power of raising up heads with the priestly blessing. Begins, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, may God bless you and keep you. And then it adds a dimension of light. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, may God's face shine brightly on you and be gracious to you. And then in the final, ultimate blessing, we return to this theme that began the portion, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God raise up. Yisa is the same verb as naso. Yisa Adonai panav elecha. May God's face be lifted. May God raise the divine face to you and give you peace. Here, the beginning of the portion, and well into it, we find a meeting. We find a narrative. When we raise up our heads, naso at Rosh, when we raise our heads, Vayisa Adonai, God will raise up the divine face to us. When we raise up our heads, God's face will be raised up to our own. So let us reflect for a moment. How can you raise up your own head today? How can you raise up the heads of others, especially those who are most hurting in our city, in our community, in your family, in your workplace? Naso at Rosh, how can we lift up the heads of those in need? So that God's face will be raised up to all of us, and that God will give us that dearly sought gift of peace informed by justice and truth. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. A reminder, we will have Torah study at noon today, Talmud study at noon tomorrow, and this weekend we'll bring our congregation's first Zoom B'nai Mitzvah for Lizzie and Jacob Wald on Saturday. I want to end with a prayer by my colleague, Rabbi Lisa Sari Bellows. Holy One, have mercy on our nation. Help us to hear the voiceless and to see the oppressed. Free us from constriction of mind and heart, that your great love may be felt in every corner of the earth. Give us the courage to never stop chasing after justice on behalf of all those affected by racism and bigotry, that we may never stand idly by the blood of our neighbor. Baruch atah, blessed are you, the one who is with us, as we tend to the repair of this broken world.